We can all agree that one of the most surreal moments or days you can experience is the last day of school. It could be your last day of a certain grade, or even the last day of middle school or high school, which I think are probably the most significant. Cause it's like, the moment your alarm goes off for the last day of school and you wake up, you just feel a sense of peace, and low-key a bit of sadness as well. Because leading up to that last day, that's when I feel like everyone starts to open up more and talk to each other. Because it's gonna be a long time until you guys see each other again. And if you're moving school or graduating, you're probably not gonna see them again in your whole entire life. On the bus ride, walk, or drive on the way to school, you think about all the things you've went through to get here. Studying for tests, the sports games, the drama, and you come to a realization that all of that ends today. You pull up to school and it feels a bit quieter than normal. It could be because more people are skipping class since you don't really do a lot of work on the last day anyways. And for the people that did pull up to school, it might not be that they're not as excited or happy. It's because everyone knows this is one of those rare moments that happen once a year, or the last time in your entire life if you're graduating, and everyone is just soaking it in. As you sit in your final classes, you think about all the times you complained about school and how it's the worst possible experience anyone can go through, but in that moment, you start to feel like maybe it wasn't that bad. Cause in the next year, you're either gonna have to study more to keep up with the next grade's content, go to university or college, find a job, or take a gap year, and all of that just seems like more work and responsibility, and it makes you realize how good you've had it this year, and that maybe you shouldn't have took it all for granted. Once recess or lunchtime rolls around, that's when people have their last ever meal at school, the last ever group discussion on which teacher was the baddest, last ever sports game. Oh bruh, the last football or basketball game on the last day of school, that shit feels like the World Cup or even the NBA Finals, bro. When you play, no one's trying insanely hard, but at the same time, they are still trying to win. Like of course, there's gonna be that one guy that's gonna sweat their ass off to impress the Huzz on the last day, but for the most part, everyone's just having fun. And when the bell finally rings, everyone daps each other up, saying GG's, and we all walk back to class, breathing heavy, drenched in sweat for the very last time. The last couple classes before the end of the day feel the heaviest in my opinion, and at the same time, they're also the most chill and quiet classes of the day. Instead of doing work, everyone would either be chilling on their phones, playing cool math games, or just talking with each other. And that feeling you felt earlier when you woke up, that feeling of being sad, excited, scared, and being at peace at the same time, now that feeling is 10 times stronger. When the final bell for the final period goes off, everyone leaves class, and you start dapping up a bunch of people you will probably never see again, and teachers give out their last bits of advice and say their goodbyes. As you walk from the classroom to the hallway and towards the entrance of the school about to leave, you realize that at the end, it wasn't that bad, and it's finally time for summer break, where you can game, goon, eat, sleep, and repeat. I'm joking, bro. You gotta be productive, you feel me? Maybe you can start working at McTortas and stack your bread over the summer. Let's move on to the next one, bruh. It's one of the more nostalgic ones for sure. Real ones know when you stayed up late at night when you were younger, watching a movie or a cartoon. You fall asleep on the couch, but when you wake up, it seems like you magically teleported into your room. When this happened to me, I deadass never questioned it at all for the first couple times it happened. But when I got older, maybe when I was like 6 or 7, that's when I thought, yo, let's get to the bottom of this. This one time, I think I was watching an NBA game on the TV with my parents. I was lying down on the couch just watching the game, but when the game was about to end, I closed my eyes and pretended that I was asleep. And eventually, my dad picked me up and brought me back to my bedroom. And that's how I found it out, bruh. But now that I'm older, when I fall asleep on the couch, instead of waking up and being in my room, I'ma wake up in the exact same position. And I might have some neck and back pain as well, bruh. This shit ain't sweet anymore. I have to go through the back-breaking labor of needing to stand up and walk to the bedroom myself. But the feeling of falling asleep in one location and walking up in a completely different place, it just felt crazy when I was younger, bruh. And when I was researching if I was the only person that experienced this, It turns out I wasn't the only one, and in some other people's cases of this happening, it was actually due to sleepwalking, which I have never done before. Let me know down in the comments if you have sleptwalked before, because I'm actually mad curious on how it works or how it feels. Let's move on to the next one, bruh. Since we started off the video with the last day of school, we gotta start talking about the first day of coming back home from a vacation or just any case where you leave home for more than a day. As you walk through the front door, you're greeted with an unfamiliar but familiar scent, which makes you think, damn, this is what the house really smells like, bruh. You swiftly take off your backpack and set it down in the corner of your bedroom, and as you stretch out your body to relieve yourself, you yawn. And through your teary eyes, your bed emerges into focus and gradually becomes more clear. The sheets still ruffled up a little bit, the same exact way you left them there. After days or potentially weeks of not sleeping in a bed that truly resonates with your physical stature, you flop down like a rag doll, your cheek presses into the cool fabric, and you sigh with relief. Now that you're finally home. I remember this exact feeling hit extremely hard when I came back from visiting my home country when I was 8. We arrived back home in the evening on the last day of summer break as well, which meant that the next morning, my tiny ass would be back in school, ready to grind out some multiplication tables and learn what an onomatopoeia means. And that brings us into the next moment where life doesn't feel real. The day before the first day of school. I feel like most of us would be pretty hyped, but also a bit scared as well, cause you're gonna be put into random classes, and if you get bad RNG, you might end up in a class where you got no friends and know absolutely no one. And if you do something embarrassing or make a bad first impression, it might be cooked for you for the rest of the school year. So to try prevent this from happening, you reach into your closet or drawers to craft the cleanest fit possible, and to lay out all the clothes on a chair or a small table, so when you wake up tomorrow, you can suit up and approach the first day of school with confidence. And to spice up the moment a little bit more, this would not only be the first day at any ordinary or familiar school, but the first day at a new school, a high school, where you barely know anyone. On the first day, you walk into a gym or a hall with a bunch of chairs. You take a seat, and you hear the principal's voice echo across the building through the shitty school microphone, speaking about all the boring introduction stuff now that you're in a new school. After the principal's speech, you gotta wait a couple minutes before you get sent off into your actual classes. You look to your right, and you see a guy wearing a very similar fit to yours, the same shirt and shoes specifically. You say what's up, and introduce yourself, and from that moment onwards, you just created a friend, a homie, that will be the only person that will not switch up on you from this very day. And I forgot to mention, you're both wearing blue shirts, and you know what else is blue? Water. Where can you find what? Bro, what the fuck am I doing with this creative transition bullshit? The next one is gonna be about eating after swimming, bruh. Let's get it. You crawl yourself out of a swimming pool like a wet sardine. The essence of chlorine and piss lingers in your tongue and throat. Pause. And you're fiending for some type of liquid or food to satiate yourself. At this point, you could literally eat anything just as long as it's somewhat edible. And that shit finna taste like a 5-star meal. The moment you take the first bite out of a bland sandwich or scoff down a handful of chips, you could have sworn that the food was cooked by Gordon Ramsay himself, because it's just hitting way harder than normal. And from there, you wash it down with some water and it feels great. Yeah, that's all I got, bro. Let me know if I missed anything. Peace. Bags on me.